Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Let's kick off our Wednesday morning with a little bit of coffee and also some breaking news, because just announced a little bit ago, DeAndre Hopkins is headed to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 5th round pick that could end up becoming a 4th round pick. And that's a small price to pay when you don't have anybody on offense that you feel like you can trust right now. And let's be real, DeAndre Hopkins is not the same guy that he was a few years ago in Houston. This is a guy that is now 32 years old and probably has lost a step as well. His 2024 production is absolutely horrid, but that's more of a testament to the offense he's in, the quarterbacks that he's played with, than him. I mean, last season, he still had over 1,000 yards and 7 receiving touchdowns. Yeah, maybe not a guy that you're relying on as your wide receiver 1 on a weekly basis, but definitely somebody that you could toss in as a wide receiver 2 or a flex option. And that's really what he should become in Kansas City right away. All of their top targets so far this season continue to go down with injuries. 3 wide receivers over the past several weeks have been lost for the entire season or for multiple weeks, and that doesn't even include Isaiah Pacheco to go along with it. And it's not like Travis Kelce is doing all that much either right now. So DeAndre Hopkins joining the Kansas City Chiefs at this point is nothing but positivity. It's a huge step up for DeAndre Hopkins himself. He's moving into an offense that clearly is going to throw the ball way more consistent than what they were in Tennessee, and they'll be more consistent with those targets as well. DeAndre Hopkins, like I already said, should end up being a low-end wide receiver 2 or a flex option. Heck, we just saw with Amari Cooper, he was traded, played immediately, and had a fantasy viable day for the Buffalo Bills right away. So really, there would be no excuses for DeAndre Hopkins not to be able to step in and start producing. Does it hurt Travis Kelce? No, I don't think it hurts Travis Kelce, because Travis Kelce hasn't been consistent all season anyway at this point. We need more weapons in Kansas City to help open things up for this offense. The run game hasn't been all that bad. This will only help that get better. This will help Travis Kelce hopefully keep more people off of him. And the biggest person this helps out is Patrick Mahomes. Because at this point, for those of you that drafted Patrick Mahomes way too early in your fantasy drafts, you may not have any other options at the quarterback position that you can trust. You really can't cut Patrick Mahomes, because cutting him at this point would be a huge waste of a draft pick, and you've probably been hoping that he could pick it back up. DeAndre Hopkins hopefully will get Patrick Mahomes into a top 12 consideration more consistently this season than what we've seen so far. In fact, this move for the Kansas City Chiefs honestly doesn't fix everything. I wouldn't be shocked if they actually make another move for a wide receiver at some point. Maybe not something like DeAndre Hopkins, but one of these guys that really aren't being utilized by their teams to come in and also be another weapon on the outside to help Patrick Mahomes and this offense become way more consistent than what we've seen in 2024. But let's touch on the Tennessee Titans real quick. And honestly, this doesn't really move the needle for me in their offense whatsoever. Again, they're not being very successful when it comes to passing the ball already this season. Does this help anybody around them? Probably not. Calvin Ridley should see more targets, but the targets that were already being distributed in this offense weren't that great to begin with. So how quality will the targets be once Calvin Ridley starts seeing more of them? That's going to be the biggest question. He could end up becoming a guy that we see find himself inside the top 12, not consistently, but with some bigger plays down the stretch. But he's not really a guy that you're going to look to put into your fantasy lineup on a consistent basis, because he's not going to give you those numbers every single week. He's probably going to have some big games from now on, and he's probably going to have some duds to continue with it. Does it affect Tony Pollard in the run game? Probably not. They already sucked in the passing game, and Tony Pollard was still doing okay. It doesn't help their ceiling at all, but it really doesn't kill their floor anyway. We were looking at Tony Pollard as kind of like a flex option. So are we bumping him up to like RB2 status? No, not really. He's still going to be a guy that we'll throw in at the end of our lineup that's going to get us some fantasy points, and that's just going to help us get us through the week. But I wouldn't be expecting Tony Pollard to win you any weeks here down the stretch. All in all, this trade really, it doesn't do a ton in terms of fantasy outlook, except for the fact that A, if you had DeAndre Hopkins, he definitely is a guy that we could fit into our lineup, wide receiver 2, flex option the rest of the way. He should see plenty of targets, and because of that, he could have a pretty decent floor, even if his ceiling is not what it used to be. Hopefully this move helps Patrick Mahomes out and we can see him inside the top 12 a whole lot more often, and you don't have to try and debate about whether or not you're going to start him or a guy like Sam Darnold, who you didn't believe was going to be fantasy viable to begin the season. I'm not changing my outlook on Travis Kelce at all, not really changing my outlook on Calvin Ridley. He's going to have some bigger games from time to time. He's not going to be more consistent. I'm not worried about Will Levis or Mason Rudolph or whoever starting in Tennessee because we weren't playing them anyway. And Tony Pollard, still going to be a pretty decent flex option at the running back position. This obviously doesn't help his ceiling at all, but it doesn't kill his floor either. So Headliner Nation, let me know down in the comments below, what do you think about this trade? Are you excited for what DeAndre Hopkins is going to bring to the table in Kansas City? And what is a trade that you would like to see? Or is there a guy on your fantasy roster right now that you really wish was moved because his situation absolutely sucks? But hey, Headliner Nation, I'm glad we could start the morning off with some breaking news. Hopefully you're waking up, rolling out of bed, and spending your morning with a little bit of Kyle on your screen, getting up to date on all of your fantasy news. Headliner Nation, stay safe, stay healthy. Come back the rest of the day. We've got more start and sit advice for week 8 coming, but I'll see you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.